Call to order the Pennington County Planning Commission meeting for December 21st. Roll call, we're missing Commissioner Coleman. And Commissioner Peterson is representing the county board. Approval of the December 7th, 2015 minutes. Did everybody get a chance to read those? Are there any corrections or additions? If not, Chair would entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of the December 7th, 2015 Planning Commission meeting as written. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Approval of the agenda. Guess we have to approve the agenda first, and then we'll talk about the consent calendar.
Move approval of the agenda as published.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda for this meeting. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Consent calendar. The following items have been placed on the consent calendar for action to be taken on all items in accordance with staff's recommendation by a single vote. Any item may be removed from the consent calendar by any planning commissioner, staff member, or audience member for separate consideration. The findings of this planning commission are recommendations to the Pennington County Board of Commissioners, who will make the final decision. Would any planning commissioner like to remove? Oh, actually, PJ, why don't you read the items into the record first, please?
Thank you. PJ Conover, Director of Planning Department. Item number 3, conditional use permit 1537 for Peaceful Valley Hideaway LLC. Arlen Dice is the agent to allow for a vacation home rental in a low-density residential district. Staff recommends to continue CUP 1537 to the January 11, 2016 Planning Commission meeting. Item number 4, construction permit 1517 for Kroll Ready Mix Incorporated to continue operating the active Pearly Quarry as a rock quarry and to expand the current area of disturbance. Staff recommends approval of construction permit 1517 with 11 conditions. Item 5, construction permit 1518 for Dennis Zanstra, Real Estate Holdings, Stephen Zanstra as the agent, to place fill in an area south of the project area on the subject property in conjunction with grading plan for Elks Country Estates, phases 4 and 8 in the city of Rapid City. Staff recommends approval of construction permit 1518 with 9 conditions.
Thanks, PJ.
You're welcome.
Would staff like to pull any of these items for further consideration?
No, ma'am.
Would any planning commissioner like to pull any of these items for further consideration?
Yes, Madam Chairman, I'd like to pull number 4.
Number 4, thank you. And would any audience member like to pull any of these items other than either item 3 or item 5? Okay, we'll begin with item number 4. Pardon me? Oh, I'm sorry, we need to approve the consent calendar. Thank you, Sig. Chair would entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar, items 3 and 5.
So move. Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent calendar, conditional use permit CU 1537, which is item number 3, and construction permit CP 1518, which is item 5. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. On to item 4.
Good morning, Brittany Molitor, Water Protection Coordinator. Item 4 is a construction permit CP 1517 to continue operating the active Pearly Quarry as a rock quarry and to expand the current area of disturbance. The general description, the applicant would like to continue to operate the active Pearly Quarry and expand the current area of disturbance. Soil disturbing activities would include logging, clearing, and grubbing, installing erosion and sediment controls, grading, excavating necessary areas for mining, utility installation, construction of roads, and they plan on seeding, mulching, and landscaping the areas that have been disturbed. The mining activities would include drilling, blasting, excavation, hauling, crushing, and or washing the aggregate on site, stockpiling, loading, and hauling the finished product to the customer. The haul road would be on Highway 16, utilizing an existing approach. There on the south side, you can see right here. That would be their main entrance. The property is located off of Highway 16 It is currently an active mine operation that has been there since 1982. This is the site plan where they'd like to expand the area of disturbance. The southeast corner of the property is where it has been mainly mined over the years, although the whole section in their mine licenses have been indicated as areas of disturbance. They just haven't expanded to that area. And staff had met with the applicants, did a site visit to the property. There's the existing entrance right now that goes on to Highway 16. This is the road that they would utilize to get to the entrance. It is a paved surface. This is the entrance area of the pit, and this is what it looks like right now. And when I was out there on last Monday, it was being actively utilized at the time. So staff is recommending approval of the construction permit with 11 conditions.
Thank you,
So is there any
Brittany.
questions?
Are there questions for Brittany?
Sure. This particular mining place came up for expansion, I think it was a year or more ago.
That was actually on a different property.
It was a different property, huh?
This
What
is-
property?
That was a property to the north.
Okay.
This has been an active pit since 1982.
Well, the concern at the time was the traffic on Highway 16. These are huge lumbering vehicles. And this is a high-traffic area. Anybody that's tried to get in and out of Reptile Gardens or across that highway, we know that pretty well. And I note here a couple of things. The fire coordinator had a question, which wasn't answered in the study here. Didn't we have some conditions for this quarry in the past? I'd like to know if there were some. And then the Pennington County Highway Department had no comments, which was interesting considering where this is, and neither did the Department of Transportation, no comments received, and I don't know why you didn't wait until you got some comments before even submitting this. It's, to me, it's a great concern, the traffic that would be added to this very busy area.
Well, it's being actively utilized right now, and there is traffic using that approach right now. There are 2 mine licenses on that property right now where they could mine. Pete Lean has one, and also Tally Construction. So they could utilize the existing area, and have trucks going in and out.
I would just add
As
to
it
it, wouldn't
said.
it? Yeah, and we just approved, right in that same area, the Raptor Center, which is another thing that's going to have a certain amount of traffic, including occasional school buses.
I think that's in a different, that's off Neck Yoke Road. That's quite a distance away from this
Is it?
site. Yeah,
Okay. I'm mistaken on that. Thanks for the
Yeah.
correction.
Yeah.
And to my knowledge, there hasn't been any conditions on this quarry because it's been in use since 1982, so there's never been a construction permit. There were 2 conditional use permits on this property for asphalt batch plants, and those conditions were pertaining to those batch plants, and those since have been revoked, those 2 conditional use permits, because those batch plants are no longer on that site.
Well, my main concern is traffic.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, Lori.
The mining permit through the DENR, is that who issued the mining permit for this?
Yes, the mining permits have been issued through DENR, and there have been multiple mining permits at this site since 1982.
Do they have terms on them?
They do.
I mean, do they have like a length of period? And then they're like reissued or something?
Yes, typically when they apply for a mine license through the state, they have to notify people in the newspaper how long that they plan on mining. If you look under the history in the staff report, the 2 that were on there, their mine license has an end date. One of them does of 2148 and the other one of 2020.
Okay, I thought that was in there somewhere. Thank you.
Are there any other questions for Brittany? If not, I have one. Where are the closest residences, do you know, to this mine site?
So that area here, this area is residential, and there is some here and here.
How far to the northeast, or northwest, I'm sorry?
Over
Over a
here,
mile?
yeah, there is that, that campground that's right in here, off of 16 here, and then there is a subdivision, Copper Oaks is in here.
And that's how far away? About a mile?
I would say a couple miles. Over here, but as far as, let me see.
Oh, there's muttering in the audience. I think, well,
I
there's
can-
probably some people who disagree with you there.
Sure. And I'm just taking it off of the scale on the bottom and trying to,
I think the closest residences would be along Oxyoke Drive.
Duck Yoke Road.
Yeah, Oxyoke there,
right in here.
because Bear Country's just to
Okay.
the west of
Bear
there.
Country's
Bear
here.
Country is right there.
Then you have
Okay.
the
So that's less than a mile.
Okay. Are there any other questions for Brittany? Yes, Sig.
The staff report indicates that, I mean, fairly recently, Pennington County Highway Department also used this as a mine site for gravel, and DOT is noted there also. But DOT looks like it was 93 was the last time they used this. Do you know if DOT used this pit indirectly, like through, Quinn or some of the other operators for highway projects?
I don't, I do know that this here is still operated and owned by the DOT.
Okay.
That is part of when the road got relocated. So as part of that, that is still theirs. This history has to do with their mine licenses. So their mine license was valid until 1993. So what capacity they used it since then, I don't know.
Yes, Lori.
So just so I understand, you're saying the DOT has the old right-of-way for the old Highway 16 alignment?
This right here, yes. they
That's
still-
what that is? Okay.
Brittany, can you explain the difference between a construction permit and a mining license?
Sure. The construction permit deals with the disturbance, so it has to do with the erosion, sediment control, detention, basically what I like to call good housekeeping. Mining is actually the use of the property. So this has to do with kind of how they maintain their mining operation, how they take care of erosion and sediment control, manage their site essentially. And they have indicated, on their site plan, some berming and high walls, areas that they plan on keeping, the vegetation, the trees and things like that along here, and some high walls and some vegetation along here.
the only access to this property is going to be on the west end there?
No, there's actually 3 accesses to this property. This is the main access. This is the one that's currently being used. This is another access that was used when Bituminous had their conditional use permit in here. It still can be utilized, but it'll be just as emergency only. And then there is another access up here that they use for ag purposes, because this has historically been used for grazing, and the applicant has indicated that they will continue to do that. So there are 3 accesses. This is actually pretty primitive. It's just a 2-track road that they use, but there is an existing approach there. There is an approach here and here.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions? Is there anyone in the audience who would like to address this issue? So I'll sit down. Yes, Beth? Please introduce yourself.
Good morning, or good afternoon, excuse me. Carolyn Beth Mazzella. I live in Copper Oaks at 23614 Wilderness Canyon Road. I am approximately a mile from the quarry. What we would like to remind you of is in June of this year, Kroll proposed a fairly extensive work in mining within adjacent property. We believe, in fact, that since they did not get that approval with rezoning, and that they did not purchase that property, that this is their then attempt to do what they wanted to do in June. And what we would ask the commission is to table this, to allow those of us who will be affected to review Kroll's proposal, to review planning and zoning's recommendations, and come back with an informed response. We learned of this activity this morning. We have not had the opportunity to really review the proposal and do not wish to make, essentially to reiterate de novo everything that went on in June. We would like to ask your indulgence for a delay so that we can consider this.
Thank you. Beth, are there any questions for Ms. Mazzella? Nope. Thank you.
Yeah, I have one.
Oh, wait,
Sorry.
sorry.
Did you have a recommendation on how much time you thought you needed for review?
This commission meets every other week, but with the holidays, I would hope that we could have at least a month, maybe two.
Thank you.
Thanks. Yes, sir, did you wish to come and speak?
My name is Don Berger. I live at 23637 Wilderness Canyon Road. And I'm also on the Rockerville Fire Department. And we, as a department, had concerns with the previous pit last summer. And just to cover one thing, I think the closest homes are probably 47th Avenue. 47th Avenue sits kind of right behind Bear Country, so it's actually closer than Wilderness Canyon Road. And I think if you look, it's a matter of, I'm guessing, without a map in front of me, 500 or 600 yards maybe.
Okay,
So I think that would be your closest homes.
thank you.
To back up to the previous time, last summer that Carolyn mentioned, the previous pit that Kroll did not buy, I did some quick numbers just to kind of quantify the traffic level from the fire department's perspective. And at that time, we were told 150 trucks a day. So that's 150 in, 150 out. Now, what I don't know for sure, I've seen nothing that says that's what the truck volume will be in this case. But if it is, I wanted to kind of quantify the traffic level and then incorporate what goes in and out of Bear Country every day. In an 8-hour shift, if you take 150 in, 150 out, and call each of those transits on and off the road a truck event, you have 300 a day. In an 8-hour shift, you would have a truck entering or exiting the highway every 1.6 minutes. If you go to a 10-hour shift, that extends it out to a whopping 2 minutes. And when that pit was going to be sited at the bottom of the hill, what it looked like, we were told that the majority of the traffic would be going westbound. Well, if you take a loaded truck pulling onto 16 and trying to accelerate up that hill every 2 minutes, there is no right lane. The right lane is gone. That's all truck traffic during daylight hours. And one of the other concerns I have is when you incorporate traffic going westbound out of the pit with traffic trying to get into Bear Country, I think you set up the scenario for numerous conflicts. And as the fire department, we're the ones that then mitigate that. And I think that needs 2 months for everyone to look at it. I think Bear Country, I don't know, is there anyone from Bear Country here today? And I think as the closest neighbor, they would probably be interested also. Will this project involve a well? Will they put a well in at the pit?
Brittany, do you know?
It looks like if you look on the site plan.
I think there is one.
There is a well?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, there is.
Oh, okay. But anyway, I think it should be delayed so everyone can take a harder look at it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Berger. Wait, are there any questions for Mr. Berger before he sits down? No, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Would anyone else like to comment? Oh, there's one more, and then you'll be next. Oh,
Patty San Martin, 13607 South Highway 16. I'm here to represent Pauline Casey, with whom I have spoken as early as a couple of hours ago, her daughter Shannon and her son Mark. They would worry about the bears. Those type of animals are very sensitive to infrasonic sounds. Even if they have low-level blasting, it could be very upsetting to the animals. And they had even expressed concern about some of their visitors might be our honored veterans that could have some post-traumatic stress syndrome. And if there is a rumble or a blast, it could scare them a lot too. And so Casey's very much would like not to have it come closer to them.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Ms. San Martin? Nope. Okay, sir.
Hello, I'm Barrett Wendt. I live at 13745 47th Avenue West. I'm one of those that's very close to the backside of this pit. In fact, even to the center of the pit. I know my brother's going to get up here and speak as well. Less than a mile to my door from the center of the pit that's on the picture up here. So obviously very concerned about how close that's going to be to the property, how that's going to impact property value. Also a major concern, which we brought up last time during this discussion, is impact on water. They had some estimates last time, I believe, of how much they were going to take out of their well. It's all the same aquifer. There's quite a few wells in our area. They're all very low flow. I would like to see a water impact study done prior to any approval of any new construction permit or mining permit. So they're going to have to use a lot of water to keep dust down. The other concerns, I have one major concern, as stated a couple times. We just learned about this morning. This commission directed the staff to inform us last time of any additional request from Kroll about this property. That did not happen. So we've not had time to look at it to get more public opinion. And last time we submitted a signed petition with over 100 individuals that live close to the area, businesses that are very much against this mine and against expansion of the mine. Just because it's been there since '82 doesn't matter. It's been limited use. Kroll wants to significantly expand that. You heard traffic reports from, excuse me, I forgot his name. The conditions that the staff put on really do nothing to address safety of travel on 16, extra dust, extra heavy truck traffic, very poor entry and exit point halfway up a major hill with heavy loaded trucks. When they have had more traffic there, it's been a muddy, dirty mess. There's been gravel on the highway, there's been dirt. When it gets wet, it is a mess to drive on. Negative impact on tourism, negative impact on future investment in the area. These conditions do nothing to address any of that. They say they're going to put berms, they're going to keep all this property, but none of it's required. They can say it, they don't have to do it. Where's the requirements for minimum setback lines? Where's the requirements for dust and noise control? I think we need more time to look at it, get more public opinion. We were supposed to be informed, we were not. And I live less than a mile away. I should have had a public notice. So it seems like Kroll is trying to sneak this one in right before Christmas. It's dirty. They want to be a good partner, a good neighbor. They're not being that. I just don't see any positives in it for Rapid City. I really don't. I understand mining's necessary. I work for a company that supports mining and has mining operations. There's places they can do this in Rapid City that don't have the negative impacts that this has with traffic and all of that. I just say deny the request, deny the, at minimum, postpone it to allow us more time for public comment, or outright deny it. That's what I'd request.
Okay, are there any questions for Mr. Wendt? No, thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Yes, ma'am.
My name's Sylvia Cox. I live at 23739 Arrow Road, which actually, as a crow flies, is very, very close to this, although it's on the other side of Route 16. because of the way Route 16 bends around and Neck Yoke bends around and Arrow Road bends around, we may be one of the closest sets of residences to the area. I was surprised about this. I got a notice of it by a telephone call quite late last night. I tried to reach as many of my neighbors as I could. Those I could reach are doing things related to the holidays today, and so we were all feeling also like we didn't have an opportunity. We had attended the prior meeting, and I'm here because I was the only one who was able to make it this afternoon. This presentation leaves me asking a lot of questions because things are not clear to me at all. Perhaps they're clear to you, but as I look at that map, I assume that the blotchy pink area is current activity and all areas outlined in white are expanded activities. Am I correct in that assumption?
Actually, I think they're blue, but yeah, that's the
Blue.
anticipated expansion
Mine
areas.
progressions, is that the part?
Yep.
To me, it looks like more than 100% increase in the area of operations. And when I listen to the areas of activities, the types of activities that were going to be added to or increased, it sounds to me like what we are dealing here is a very heavy industrial operation in an area that isn't suited for that in any respect. From my point of view, from where I live, apart from the traffic, and I might say, I don't think all the trucks are going to go west. And for those trucks that go east, someone should bear in mind that there's going to be a new stoplight at the top of the hill of Route 16 right across from Fort Hayes. And I'm overlooking that as a disaster just for regular traffic, especially in the winter. And if you're going to have a lot of trucks lined up behind that traffic light, they're going to be stopped going downhill headed east. If you're familiar with the area, you'll know what I'm talking about.
That's at Moon Meadow, right?
Yes. For me personally, the thought of a traffic light there is anathema, but the traffic light there with a lot of heavy trucks is impossible to understand. I'd like to say something about noise. No one's talking about that. Where we live, as close as we are to Route 16, we hear a lot of traffic noise literally all year round, unless it's early Sunday morning or late at night. When the motorcycles are in town, there's no peace and quiet in our house from Route 16. And I can imagine that large, heavily loaded trucks laboring up the hill are not going to be any much more quiet. I don't know what their decibel levels are compared to motorcycles, but they're not quiet. And based on what we already hear, I think there's going to be a noise problem from our point of view. This is a rural, basically residential and tourist area. This just doesn't fit. If it's limited and controlled, it's one thing. If it's going to become as large as it sounds to me and as it looks from this map, I don't think it's appropriate without controls that limit the effects on the area. And I also want to say, as I understand what you're talking about now, they're not going to be driving out next to the new Liberty Hall, but that was a consideration at the last meeting. And I think Liberty Hall has been a wonderful addition to our community. And if this mining operation starts to impinge in any way on the serenity of Liberty Hall, I think that would be a disaster for that project. So those are my comments. That's all I have to say.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Cox. Are there any questions for her? Nope. Sir.
Good afternoon, Trevor Went, resident at 13732 47th Avenue West. From my doorstep to the current mine is 1.5 miles, so the new mine would be less than a mile away. I don't really have much more to add than everybody else in their considerations, just that I want to be on record in supporting everything that's been said thus far. I do have, just because this has been a mine in operation since the 80s, the rezoning for this area was evaluated a few years back, and we're trying to follow that zoning. You have a bunch of new apartments, new homes, Buffalo crossings, all that stuff being developed within a 5-mile radius of this operation. In today's world, this doesn't seem like a good fit, especially in an expansion of the size that they're proposing. For me also, the water is very much an issue. Our current well that my home and roughly 15 other homes are on, we're already very slow draw water. 7 years ago when the drought was ending, we actually had to drill an additional well, which turned out to have bad water, sulfur water that's not usable. Bringing in another well used in an industrial setting like this, I think would be pretty devastating for the amount of water in the aquifer in that region. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wen. Are there questions? Nope. Brittany, did you have anything to add? DJ?
There's a couple points of clarification. I'll just do one. A comment was made that staff was to notify the couple residents when Kroll comes back for a mining permit on another property, not for this one, and this is also a construction permit, so staff hasn't done what was directed because this is not relevant to that.
Okay. Did everybody get that? It's a different piece of property, different type of permit.
Wouldn't do it for anybody else.
And, okay, yes, Mr. Went?
That actually brings a question to me that I did forget to mention. I am a homeowner within 1.5 miles of this operation. Should I have been notified? What are the requirements for that? Because I found out about this morning early. And although that was revolving a different zoning permit and a different piece of property, but it still involved corral. And what I understood to be the case with the previous is that anything revolving corral in this area was to be better notified to the residents surrounding this. So I'd like some clarification on that, actually.
Okay. Would you guys like to explain what requires notification and what does not? Thanks, Brittany.
Sure. Construction permits, mining permits do not require notification. Rezones and conditional use permits do. We don't notify for plats or anything like that. In this case, this property is zoned general agriculture. In our zoning ordinance, under general agriculture, mining is an allowed use with a construction permit. So that's why when they talk about the conditions, when I look at the conditions for it, the use is allowed. So the conditions that I applied to it were for a mining permit, they were for a construction permit, which has to do with erosion, sediment control, detention, and things. So if there was any other.
Ms. Cox?
Could you just ask Brittany for me, because I know I'm not allowed to ask her directly.
Oh, you come on up.
Well, it was my impression that mining on agricultural properties was limited in some way. So does a construction permit give them unlimited mining? Because I thought it was primarily for use with respect to the property or agricultural uses. Am I incorrect in that understanding?
In our zoning ordinance, it's a permitted use. On page 55, it says mining is allowed with a construction permit. And there isn't, the restrictions on the construction permit fall under whatever is required in our stormwater manual for erosion, sediment control, and things. So.
And the mining permit is not issued by the county, it's issued by DENR.
For this
correct?
case, yes, in the agriculture, because it's a permitted use in general agriculture.
Right. Sig?
Well, that's kind of the point I was going to make is I think there's confusion between the mining permit that's granted by DENR and the construction permit. And as Brittany tried to explain, I don't know if that's people are understanding, but it's basically erosion control and kind of controlling dust and fugitive dust and runoff and, increased runoff. But the mining permit, I don't know, Brittany, if you can maybe talk about that as far as the history. I mean, what area is permitted? My understanding, it's the current block is all currently permitted and has been for years. It's just that they haven't taken advantage of that, but it's been permitted, it's been active. I'm not saying I agree with it. I voted against when they were on a different parcel. But I think it's hard to stop them when it's a permitted mine, and it's been approved by DENR, is my understanding. I guess, Brittany, please correct me where I'm wrong.
Sure, and I will pull up their, the mine sites to show the history, just so it's easier to see. goes through here. So here's that site and the mine license that have been, and the green ones are the ones that are active, and the red ones are the ones that are expired, or they're no longer being used. But when they originally, here's the legal descriptions. This was the southeast quarter of all of Section 9. This was all of Section 9. This is for the east half of Section 9 and the west half of Section 10. So it was for this whole area.
And these are all owned by the Pearlies, is that correct?
No, the mine licenses are different. Those are issued to the
land-
operator.
The land is owned by the
It
Pearlies.
was. It was.
Okay.
But the mine licenses are actually issued to the operators.
Right.
So when they, and these are active licenses, these ones, and it's for the east half of Section 9, so it's this whole half of this
Is it
section.
active or inactive?
That one's active.
Okay.
Why is that not outlined?
Pardon?
Why is it not outlined if it's active?
This one?
The whole east side, I guess I'm
The east side, this is the section, this whole part right here, and it's this, the east half. So it would include that whole, I know it's hard to see on here. Let me see if I can. I don't like not having a mouse. So this area in blue right here is the whole section. The east half would be from half of this east to this section line. And then the west half of 10.
Are there any further comments? Yes, ma'am.
Want me to come up there again?
Yes, Ms. San Martin, please come up again.
Could I see the picture that, the last one, that shows the progression of the mine?
Oh, sure.
Thank you. Oh, you're welcome.
There.
There. I just noticed there's an arrow that points toward mining progressions. Does that mean it's just pointing out that those areas outlined in white are the mining progressions? Or does that mean that the mining progressions might go from where they're currently outlined even farther? Because I know there's limestone on those ridges. I live
Yes.
up there.
I think the intention is eventually to go further than what's outlined there.
Another question on, I haven't heard of a definition of what kind of permit. They want a construction permit, but is it going to be heavy industrial or what? Is it going to entail, they already have one well, they're going to drill another. It says in your, whatever it's called, that they may clean and or wash the aggregate. Well, it means they don't have to wash it. And if they did, how much water is it going to take? And if they don't, they're going to have dust problems anyway. I represent the 60 people that I named for you last June that live on Duffer Drive. Most are elderly down there. They're very concerned about dust. For degradation of the scenery, you can see from the top where Moon Meadows is, as you go down into the valley, you can look across already and see they've already started scrubbing that whole hill. Looks pretty ugly already. It's going to be horrible for our 3 million plus tourists that go down that road. I spoke with Johnny Brocklesby this morning. He is very much against it. He said he had an appointment, couldn't be here.
He's the operator of Reptile Gardens.
Yes, he is. And so now I'm done.
Okay, thank you, Ms. San Martin. Mr. Wendt.
Thanks. So I guess I don't fully understand the mining and construction permit and all of the details that go there, but from this commission's perspective, if we can't say no to a mining permit because that's not for you to issue, if we say no to a construction permit, are they allowed even to go for a mining permit?
They already.
Just because it's been in operation since '82 and not been used, I don't think that should really factor in it. maybe Pete Lean had a little more sense than to try to mine this location because of the issues with traffic and impact on tourism.
The issue is that the mining permit is completely separate from the construction permit. They already have a mining permit. They obtained that from the Department of Environment and Natural Resources at the state. And what we're doing here is looking at the additional ground that they would like to disturb and setting conditions for them so that they mine it responsibly.
And you have
Basically.
to issue that, or you can simply say no? We don't approve it?
We can say no.
Okay. That's what I'd ask you to do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Well,
Say.
and I guess the groundwater, I think there's some very good issues that have been brought up, but a lot of them are beyond our control. Drilling a new well is controlled by the state, and they have to go through hearings if it's challenged, on a well permit too. So I mean,
Right.
again, we can't tell them not to drill a well. That's up to the state to control the waters of the state.
But those are conditions you can put on.
It's on here.
Not in the 11 conditions,
Doesn't it say for the water quality? I thought there was something about the well. That's the air one, sorry.
Yep, that's an air permit.
Yep, sorry.
Yeah, well permits are also issued by the state. Are there further comments from the audience?
Madam Chair, is someone from Kroll here to?
I don't believe so. No one is here from Kroll? Nope.
I guess I would like to get their input on the time delay and what that does, their input on that.
Would you like to make a motion?
I think we should also, this was passed down to us that Commissioner Peterson received from Julie Jensen, the tourist department. She said, "Good morning, Lindell. This item on your agenda today just came across my desk. I'm sure you know what a huge concern this is to the visitor industry. I cannot be at the meeting, but Julie Jones-Whitaker, Director of Tourism for the Rapid City Convention and Visitors Bureau, will be there. I would sure appreciate you keeping us apprised of this issue in the future." So apparently there's concern here from the tourist industry officially.
Thank you, Barb. Anybody want to make a motion?
Well, I have a question for
Yes.
staff, I guess.
Yes, say.
Brittany, what are the parameters of a construction permit to deny it? I mean, basically, isn't it as if they provide a SWIP and a stormwater pollution prevention plan, that's a major part of a construction permit, correct?
Correct, it's just so they're following their plan and their stormwater controls and their BMPs. That's essentially what the construction permit. The only time we've denied them is if they've began work for what they wanted the construction permit for and have not met any of the criteria and things like that. But we ended up issuing one later once they were in compliance, or we continued it and things like that. So there's only been one that I know of that's gotten denied, and it was because work that was being done prior, and there was questions about ownership and logistics and things like that. So they had to come back and apply under different circumstances.
Right. That was
So-
the Evangelisto permit, yeah.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
then
Barb.
my question is, what kind of leeway or power does Pennington County have to address the potential problem with the traffic, which I think is a large one?
I mean, this is in front of that board for that reason, but as far as the construction permit, when I look at it, I look at what our stormwater manual requires, the permits they need to operate, the licensing that they need to use. So I look at the disturbance, not the use.
Oh, I see.
Ms. Oh, Mazzella?
Oh, sorry.
Carolyn Mazzella again. This is indeed a contentious issue, and it's one that you have difficulty dealing with due to a lot of strong feelings on many sides. You have heard the issues that have been raised. You have heard the questions that we have, and I would ask you please to consider at least a delay. We are not opposed to the existing mine. It has been there, it has operated, we have lived with it. It is the expansion and the implications for that expansion that have us concerned, to which we do not have answers. We have a great number of questions, and I see from faces many of you share those questions. Crowell probably would not want you to delay. We would ask you to encourage them as good neighbors to delay until these questions are asked. And I believe that is within your prerogative as a commission to table this matter until these questions are answered.
Thank you. Are there questions for Ms. Mazzella? Is there further discussion? Would anybody like to offer a motion?
I'll offer a motion to continue this item. What is it? Construction permit CP 15-17 to meeting.
Through March, Barbara, if you need it.
What would be suggested as the best time to, anybody got
I heard 1 month,
1 month?
Through
So how about the
25th or 20,
the 25th?
I think that's right.
of January or
25th.
February?
That would be the 25th of January, a Monday. The next option would be meeting the 8th of February. I would like to put in my motion the 8th of February to give the people every opportunity to gather their information.
Okay.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to continue construction permit CP 15-17 to the February 8th Planning Commission meeting. Is there further discussion?
Can I ask a question, Brittany?
Yes.
On a continuation like this, then, what do you communicate back then to the applicant? And, you know, what would be the basis for the continuance? And, you know, I mean, how does that whole thing work?
Well, I would let them know, because I've been writing down all of the comments that were made, so I would let them know the comments that were made and then the reason for the continuance.
And encourage them to attend
Yes.
and provide additional information.
I
I just want to clarify, you know, what is expected then at the
Sure.
February 8th meeting.
I mean, we encourage all the applicants to be in attendance, but it's not a requirement,
Yeah.
so.
Okay.
I suspect because it was on the consent calendar, they expected not to have.
I can't speak for them, I don't.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there further discussion? Any more questions of staff? The motion is to continue construction permit CP 15-17 until the February 8th Planning Commission meeting.
I do have one other comment, and I would really encourage the staff to counsel with the traffic department, state and Pennington County, and also the fire department to expand that in the next study.
Is there further discussion?
I think,
Yes,
kind of
thank you.
piggybacking on what Barb had to say, I think for the audience, contact with the DNR may be important too, because most time your mining permits have to identify the number of trucks you're running and your route and your expansion of your mine by year. And DNR, I'm assuming, went through that process when they granted the permit. And that's where I struggle. I mean, I feel, I think there's a lot of valid points made, but they have a valid permit too. And DNR is the one that controls that part of it, so.
Wouldn't it be the traffic department?
Well, that'd be DOT.
Yeah.
But typically with mining plan, they have to address, the mining plans I'm familiar with, you have to address how your truck traffic is impacting the surrounding area. I don't know if that's the case.
No, yeah. Okay, are there further comments, more discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, oh, Kinsley.
Kinsley Girl from the State's Attorney's Office. I guess I just remind everyone that if you look at the purpose of Section 507A, that it really is to mitigate soil erosion and deposition of sediment and prevent illicit discharges to drain systems. So I guess remind everyone that the purpose of this construction permit is so that those things can be mitigated, and some of the other issues really might not be something that can be considered in this specific permitting process, so just
Right.
a reminder.
Does everybody understand that? That we as a commission, the construction permit, the purpose of the construction permit is to make sure that the mining is done responsibly. But we don't have any control over water usage or the mining permit itself or truck traffic. Yes, Ms. San Martin?
Last June, they wanted.
Can you please come to the microphone so we can hear you?
Last June, Crowell wanted a heavy construction permit for an area of 150 acres up the ridge behind the Liberty Hall.
And it was a rezone, I think, right?
Oh, rezone, okay, but they wanted heavy construction. Why haven't they identified what kind of permit outside of just a construction permit? Is this one going to be heavy? Are they going to have lights on 24 hours a day? I mean, how big is their construction going to be? If you've driven by there lately, there's one little place near their emergency entrance and exit. You can get a glimpse of lots of equipment in there that you didn't see like 2.5 months ago. And
Well, it is a mining operation, so they'll be using heavy equipment to mine.
I think
mean,
last
that's-
June you denied their heavy industrial permit, though.
But this is a mining permit. This is an entirely different piece of property and an entirely different type of permit. And we don't administer the mining permits, and we don't grant them at the county level. That's granted by the state.
Thank you.
Madam Chair?
I'm sorry, Brittany, did I misspeak?
Yeah, clarification, we do have mining permits, and we do, just on this site, because it's in general agriculture, they're expanding the area of disturbance. That is what the construction permit is for, and that's
Right.
what the request is for.
But this mining permit was issued by the state.
The existing mining activity that has occurred on the site was under mine licenses and mine permits from DENR.
Right, okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Peterson.
Question, with nothing changed, the permits that are in place right now, could Kroll go out there this afternoon and haul gravel out of that pit?
Their mine license hasn't been approved yet, so that there's active operators that are doing that right now, yes.
Or someone who does have a permit, they could haul gravel out of there this afternoon?
And they probably are right now, yes.
So it is happening.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Brittany, you said that Kroll does not have their mining permit yet?
When I had talked to
license?
this, I had been in contact with DENR. They're working on getting it right now. They just acquired the property and closed on it. So there is still that timeline going on, but there's active mine licenses out in there, in that area right now. And there are operators that are actively mining it right now.
Just, Madam Chair,
Yes,
just
Barb.
for the people who are here on this issue, we up here, we're bound by the zoning ordinances, you know, just like everybody else. And so there's only so much that can be done by this committee.
Okay, there's a motion on the table to continue construction permit CP 15-17 to the February 8th Planning Commission meeting. Is there further discussion?
Can I ask one more question?
Yes.
Brittany, just so that we understand, when this construction permit is continued to the February 8th meeting, we can expect a discussion of stormwater pollution prevention and erosion control, and that's the extent of our jurisdiction, right?
Under the
In
construction.
that case, I mean, why are we postponing it? We could talk about that today. Because the enforcement for the county is the enforcement of their SWIP. And you're not going to treat this person any different than anybody else. They're going to submit the SWIP, and you're going to go out and figure out whether or not they're complying with it, and that's it. So we can do that today. Why would we treat this guy any different?
Well, I think we've learned something, and that is that they don't yet have their mining permit.
And that is a condition
That's a
of that
condition,
approval.
yeah.
That is a condition that
They
they.
can't start working until they show the mining
Right.
permits issued.
And there are other operators, like I said, that have permits through the state that have been operating at that pit
At the location.
for
So
previously.
delaying this another 6 weeks isn't going to change anything we can do.
Sig.
So I guess I don't see the point of the delay.
Well, and I guess that's the concern I had too. I struggle with this because I don't think our purview allows anything other than the stormwater. And that's why I asked on what grounds we can. And I guess in my mind, I'm justifying it because they aren't here to answer questions. And we've continued other applicants that have been not showed up and we have questions. That's kind of my justification. So.
But I guess my point would be all the concerns that were brought up today should be directed to DENR
Under the mine permit and mine license.
because they're the ones who are considering the mining permit. Am I wrong?
No.
Thank you, Brittany. Sir, would you like to speak to this issue?
Good afternoon, Denny Gordon, Pennington County Fire Coordinators. I understand the motion is simply either to postpone until February 8th or not. However, and I apologize if I didn't read into this construction permit enough when it crossed my desk. Listening to this, I have a lot of questions. Mining permit has not been issued, so where do we address traffic? You said that should be in their mining permit. What if we're gonna run this, they're expanding their operation, do we know how many more trucks? This is a high traffic area, numerous accidents, a lot of potential there, okay? So we don't know that yet. So why don't we just simply wait a little bit, a few weeks, isn't gonna matter. We can get those answers at that time, then we'll know. I don't think you simply stated what's in the best interest, so they're mining responsibly. Let's make sure it's all responsible. You do have a chance here to not issue a construction permit and somewhat override the state. They might issue the mining permit, they don't care about Pennington County.
Thank you, Mr. Gordon. Are there questions?
Thank you.
No. Mr. Wendt.
Hello. I may be off, and please correct me if I am, but I think part of this board's decision around the construction, zoning, and everything that impacts Pennington County is still very relevant to the decision of issuing a construction request, because you control who builds what, where, and how big they build. That still falls under the construction permit realm, and I think this is still relevant to that. And maybe I am mistaken, I'm new to some of this stuff, but the more I'm hearing about some of this, I don't know, it seems like, I don't know, it just seems like we need more clarification maybe on that, I don't know.
Okay, are we done? Are we ready to vote? We have a motion on the floor to continue construction permit CP 15-17 to the February 8th Planning Commission meeting. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign?
No.
Get that? We had one no from Commissioner Litzen. Okay, thank you. Let's move on to item 6.
Good afternoon, Cassie Bolstead, Assistant Planning Director. Item 6 is a rezone RZ 1515 to rezone 3.20 acres from General Agriculture District to Low Density Residential District. The applicant here is Troy and Lisa Eisenbraun. The owner is Eric and Lana Eisenbraun. This property, they are requesting this rezone because this property is being replatted through the city of Rapid City. Currently, as it exists right now, it's Zone General Agriculture District. It is currently 38.35 acres. It's accessed right now off of Southside Drive, which is up here, and it's accessed via a 25-foot wide, holy cow, private access easement, which is noted on the plat to be for agricultural use only. This property is currently used and taxed as ag land, and it's currently vacant of any permanent structures. So as I said, this property is within the 3-mile platting jurisdiction of the city of Rapid City. So currently they are in the process of replatting the subject property. What they are wanting to do is plat out this little portion down here outlined in red is going to be tract A, which is going to be 3.20 acres. They also do own this portion of property right here, which they are going to combine with the remainder of what's going to be tract B to make this property right here 45 acres. So this portion of the property will not require a rezone at this time. They're just requesting to rezone this tract A right here to low density residential district, which requires the minimum 3-acre lot size. So within 0.5 miles of the subject property, there is general agriculture district, limited ag, low density residential, suburban residential, and also a little bit of planned unit development. I do also want to note that the Pennington County Comprehensive Plan does identify the future land use of this property as low density residential, so their request is in harmony with the future land use. And so a comprehensive plan amendment is not required at this time for this property. This was routed through the interdepartmental review process and no significant issues were raised. So staff does recommend approval of rezone 1515.
Okay, are there any questions for Cassie? Are the Eisenbrauns here? Would you like to speak at all? Sure, come on up.
I am Troy Eisenberg.
Hi, Troy. Do you have questions
No, I said
for
if
us?
there are questions.
Oh,
I would like to
I'm
see-
sorry, I misunderstood you.
Oh, no. No, I have no questions, I'm sorry.
Okay. Sorry to get you up here then.
Thanks.
I'd move approval per staff's recommendation.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded to approve rezone RZ 15-15. Is there further discussion?
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Just to clarify, then, the balance of this stuff that's going to be replatted is going to continue to be general ag?
Correct, yes.
Okay,
It will
that's
meet
what-
the 40-acre requirement.
Thanks.
Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
On to item 7.
Good afternoon. Item 7 is minor plat 1528 and subdivision regulations 1516 to reconfigure lot lines to create lot AR1 and lot BR of lot 2 revised of block 1 of Thompson subdivision and to waive platting requirements. The applicant is Donald Karras, and he was not able to make it in today from Pier, and he had mentioned that he probably wouldn't be here today. The surveyor was James Heald, and the property in question, the two properties cover about 26.17 acres. Here's on the screen is an approximate location of where, well, the location of where the properties are located. The applicant is looking to add to the property outlined in red, taking away some of the southern property of what's currently outlined in blue. The reason being, he has a single-family residence on the property outlined in red. Takes about 1 acre, and he wants a buffer between his property and the property to the north, which is he's going to donate to Augustana University, his alma mater. So he's looking to create that buffer. In doing so, he's, well, a little history of the property up to the north. There is there used to be a single-family, single-wide mobile home on the property that was removed in 2007. What the surveyor calls a shed was left on the property, which actually created an illegal lot. Have an accessory, after the principal is taken off. So what staff is going to do, and what the applicant has agreed to, is basically sign what we do for mobile homes. They're usually 90-day memorandums of understanding, but we're going to do 100, because of the upcoming weather, a 120-day memo that he either have the shed removed, which he said is most likely because it's falling down anyway, or he would apply for the conditional use permit to allow it on the property if the Augustana University would like to keep it there. Everything on the southern property, it meets the permits and is currently in order. So again, he's just looking to reconfigure the interior lot lines. Both properties are in the Thompson Road District, and so as you can see on the property outline in red, it does have two approaches, and that would go through them. This is what the property looks like now, and if you were to change the lot line, he's looking to do something approximate to that. This is the actual plat, copy of the plat submitted by Heald, which is C up in the top. The dotted line is what property there is now, and then the solid line to the north is where the new property line would be. This is a topo map showing the shed up to the north. Both properties have a 25-foot setback, and there was some question because of rapid map to the shed to the lot line, but using the scale provided by Heald during a surveying, that shed to the north meets and exceeds that 25-foot point. This is the current zoning on the properties. We're looking at limited ag on the low-density residential on the top, limited ag on the bottom. And when he goes to subdivide, he's going to be subdividing off part of the future land use as indicated as limited agriculture, which is the green, not all of it. So there would be a strip of limited agriculture future land use. So we're going to address that with a comprehensive plan when he comes in to rezone so that this is corrected. It's unknown why the property to the north currently outlined in blue through the comprehensive plan future land use is split. So we're looking to correct that problem through this. This is this property of that shed down there to the bottom right. Yeah, again, a larger view of the property that was traditionally outlined in blue, the applicant's property, and it's the single-wide mobile home that was removed in 2007. So staff recommends approval of the following requested subdivision regulation variances, not to include an 8-foot minor drainage and utility easement on the interior of all lot lines. This was routed also out to the electric company in the area, and they did not have concern about that request. Number 2, to not improve the section line in existing roadway and not to submit engineering road construction plans. The applicant is not increasing density or decreasing density, just moving interior lot lines, and
Right.
the current roads would be maintained the same amount of use as far as number of lots. That'll be the first recommendation.
Okay. Would anybody, are there any questions for PJ, first of all? Yes, Sig.
I guess I just, more on policy on that 8-foot utility easement. I mean, that's been standard kind of, and to me, it's like there aren't any listed extenuating circumstances to take it away, but I mean, I also understand the property here, the power company is the one that's more likely to use it. If they have no objections, I don't see any reason. It's more, to me, more of a policy question. You don't know what utilities may come down in the future and may need to do that. And I mean, I thought that's kind of the reason to leave that corridor available for utilities. And it seems like we're kind of getting more where we're waiving it more often. There's been at least one other.
Yeah, the 8-foot minor drainage utility doesn't come up that often. Most of the time, they're already there. The previous plats on both of these properties doesn't even have it.
Okay.
So he's keeping the same thing, and Black Hills Electric didn't seem to have an issue with it, according to their comments.
Okay.
Yep.
Appreciate
So
that.
they're not taking something away that already existed. Yeah, good question.
Okay, are there any other questions for PJ on the subdivision regulations variance? Hearing none, would somebody like to make a motion? Staff's recommendation is to approve the following requested subdivision regulations variance request. No 8-foot minor drainage and utility easement, no improved section line, and no engineered road construction plans.
So moved for staff's recommendation.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the requested subdivision regulations variances as recommended by staff. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, on to the minor plat.
Sure. Staff recommends approval of minor plat 1528 with 10 conditions.
Any questions there? Then how about a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve minor plat PL 1528 with 10 conditions per staff recommendation.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve minor plat PL 1528 with the 10 conditions recommended by staff. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. On to item number 8.
Item 8 is rezone request 1508 and comprehensive plan amendment 1508 to rezone approximately 30.49 acres from general agriculture district to general commercial district and to amend the Pennington County comprehensive plan to change the future land use from limited agriculture to general commercial. The applicant and the owner is Mitch Morris, still in the audience at this time. And again, the property in question is only 30.49 acres. So if you look up at the screen real quick, this little section outlined in red is the portion that was described off for rezoning today. The actual property goes much further down, and I believe is about 120 acres total, or roughly. But he's only looking to do the portion up along the road there. This has been before you multiple times since, I believe, June or July of this year. It went out for comment again to all of the departments that we routed these requests to. And then the applicant was given time to respond to those requests. And when we received that letter and shortly thereafter, we sent it out to the other departments to respond, again, to the applicant's responses because there was some concern about what was going on in this area and how the county views it and how the city of Rapid City views it. It is important to note that most recently to the west of this, there was a considerable amount of the applicant's property that was rezoned over to general commercial. The future land use for a large portion of his request did match. A small portion, again, notice here, these are older, these haven't been updated, but that is now general commercial. So if this request was approved, it would be contiguous with previously approved general commercial properties. There has been some back and forth between, again, like I said, what the city's future use is and what the county's future use is. The applicant in his letter has stated that he believes that it is in harmony with what the city has planned for this area. However, through the comments that were returned back from the city, they're saying it is not in harmony. It has also been addressed several times that when permits are applied for, that a lot of the concerns from the city would be addressed. That is true. It also depends on what permits are applied for or what happens in the area. There's been a lot of comments that came back as far as when platting is done, infrastructure will be addressed. Well, traditionally in this area, the applicant hasn't platted. He's eloquently described them, which waives all the platting requirements from the city, and he is located within the 3 mile. So that's just history of the area and of the property, and that's how this property was described also for purposes of this rezone. So it is not in harmony with the future land use for the county, and with all the concerns, staff is really torn on what to do. Staff wasn't going to recommend a denial, wasn't going to recommend approval, and necessarily didn't really want to continue it again. So therefore, reaching out to the Planning Commission for guidance, and therefore staff is seeking guidance from Planning Commission on how to move forward with rezone 1508, Comprehensive Plan Amendment 1508.
Are there questions for PJ?
Yeah, TJ, this is directly across the street from that Black Hills Power and Light.
Yep, actually, I just happened to land onto that slide while you were asking that, yes.
Yeah, and haven't we been putting restrictions on that piece of property because of that substation? I mean, is limiting what can be there or something that we can buffer the remainder of that area from?
There have been talks of zoning buffers, not necessarily what would be done on that property. I know, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, but Commissioner Hadcock had mentioned that some type of commercial or industrial buffer was to be there. There's been discussed even from this body as far as some type of commercial or industrial buffer. So
My thought was that this would lead right, satisfy that requirement. It seems to me that it would satisfy that requirement for a commercial buffer between this substation and a residential or any, whatever development is done in the future at that point.
Yep.
Are there any other additional questions for PJ? Sig.
I guess, you know, the city's got some valid concerns, but I mean, my understanding is on rezone, we've said this many times, you can't put conditions on a rezone.
That is correct.
And we've done a lot of rezoning where we aren't asking other applicants to say what's your infrastructure plan. And so it seems inconsistent now for, you know, kind of goes to that point of being in the 3-mile limit and fighting in the middle of 2 jurisdictions, you know.
Inconsistent, I don't know exactly the correct word. Most recently, there's been more and more, the county's been listening more and more to what the city has planned, not discounting it and saying, we're the county, we're gonna do what we want, you're the city, you do what you want. Decisions have been made more and more by this body and the Board of Commissioners that are looking more at how the city is sprawling. It's just falls into that time period of when that's happening.
Any other comments?
Can I ask a question?
Lori.
The piece of property in between the piece that just got rezoned, general commercial along 16, or 79, sorry.
This right here
Yeah. Who, is that owned by the same owner?
is owned by the applicant, yes.
I mean, so we're going to say no? I mean,
You can say what you want.
well, no, but what I mean is, you know, the owner of the property is telling us he wants to use it as general commercial. It's in the best interest to avoid spot zoning to make a continuous property general commercial, right?
Yeah, I mean,
It's
we'll avoid
across
spot
from
zoning.
it's across from a switching place where no one wants to live, right?
Yep.
Just for a point of clarity and completeness, I forgot not to sidetrack you unless you're done.
That's fine. That's all I wanted to point out.
We were also given a memo from Treasurer Janet Saylor. The property was one of 32 pages of documents that were put up for tax certificates today. And the tax certificate is currently held by the county for unpaid taxes. Now, the reason that she submitted or was requested to submit a comment is just like we would reach out to every other department that we felt was involved in making a decision for this or had some say in this. And when we learned this morning that it was on this list, I asked her for a comment, and that is the comment that she gave, and the applicant was given a copy of that comment as well.
Okay. I do have to say that's quite concerning for me, that there are unpaid taxes on this parcel. Are there any more questions for PJ?
I would just say that this wouldn't, not this applicant, but this wouldn't be the only time where decisions have been made on something with unpaid taxes, and it's something that we're going to look at with our office and the treasurer's office. We do look at properties with unpaid taxes to delay permits until taxes are paid. You can't record a plat until your taxes are paid, so we're looking to see if we can fix that loophole, I guess you could call it, in the future, so that something changes on the property, which could change how the taxes are viewed, and the treasurer knows nothing about it.
Right.
It's as simply as routing it out to her and getting comment. So,
Thank you.
Yep.
Are there any other questions? Mr. Morris, would you like to make comments?
That one's fine. Okay. Just going through the staff report, there was a couple items. One that I asked PJ about this morning, and on what his recommendation would be, and as I understood, one of the things is some of the inconsistencies he thought with some of the filed reports back. So, and the one he mentioned to me was a fire coordinator this morning. So, I just wanted to clarify that one.
Thank you.
In the routing of some of this, I was asked to get written answers or written directions from some of the comments. I called in every individual that was on this deal or went and met personally with them. In this case, the fire coordinator, it was a phone conversation. We had a lengthy phone conversation about my request. I think there's a lot of confusion in zoning and plating and requirements, and as it gets even routed around to this piece. Mr. Goten, I think that's how you pronounce that? Dennis?
Denny Gorton?
Gorton, yes.
He was just
In our
here.
conversations, he had no concern of it in the zoning request process. And that's, he followed that up with an email to Mr. PJ and copied to myself on his not concerning of the zone request. In the second time of routing around the same thing, because it got rerouted a second time, he thought maybe it was the next stage of plating, is the way, I called him on the phone also this morning. And his confusion is that under the zoning, he has no concerns. Under the next step, plating, building permits, he would have further concerns, as he had addressed in his first routing. So that this letter is just strictly to clarify that out. Or the copy of this email is that him and I did have, there's a comment in the routing that he didn't remember talking to me, and there seemed to be some issues with that, so I'm just trying to clear that up. This request has been ongoing since May, I believe, and it's been kind of round and round. I'm trying to get this done. The intent of this is like Lori had mentioned, I'm trying to make a contiguous zone in there. I've been advised or in conversations with a few of the county commissioners. I've had zoning requests denied because of the substation. And in that indication that there needs to be a design buffer zone. That's the attempt of this zoning request. Initially, or specifically currently is to build a buffer zone between any potential residential or any housing area or apartments or anything and this substation. General agricultural, as I understand, does not build the buffer zone because you can do so many things with general ag under permits. I don't want to go through the permitting process. I want to do the zoning as everything is. To me, it's the first process of a development. I plan on developing this property. I plan on building houses out there. At some point, how to get there, this substation is causing a lot of problems. And I'm trying to figure out a way of working with the city and the county and everybody else to build this buffer zone that people talk about. I've asked for specifics of what that is. I have got no answers. I don't know if anybody has that answer. The city addresses sometimes a noise vibration study they have, and then the next time it's out of the conversation. So as the landowner, I don't know what I can do to build a buffer zone. If I want to build houses another quarter of a mile to the south of that, what do I need to do that? If I want to build a trailer park, if I want to do anything else besides put cows on this property, what do I need to do to start complying and building the buffer zone around this substation? This is a step one, I should say, to try to design a buffer zone. Whether it go in general commercial or light industrial, I'm going to keep pursuing this. I'm asking for your assistance or your direction on guidance to this. I don't know the answers. This is a step I'm trying to do, and I'm looking for answers as well.
Are there questions for Mr. Morris? I guess I have one, and that is, if we grant you this rezone, are you gonna, I mean, are you planning to develop soon? Are you gonna plat through the city and deal with all of this?
I'm gonna start a plating process. My next step after this zone request, or following this, is the property to the south of this, I'm gonna request a low-density residential. And once I know the zoning potentials or possibilities, then I will start the plating process. I'm not gonna just start plating lots, outs, and roads until I know what I can use it for. There is a difference between the city's requirements of zoning and the county's requirements of zoning. I'm trying to comply with all of the county because that's the jurisdictive party here. I don't know everything about this, learning as I go. I am gonna continue on pushing forward to try to develop, though. I don't have any direct plans of what would, if this was approved today or tomorrow or whenever, of what I'm gonna build on that. Probably nothing for some years. I may plat it into specific lot sizes, put in some infrastructure, stuff like that, but may not do any building on it. The property to the south of it, I got some immediate plans that I'm gonna start pushing forward on. It's not under the request today, though.
Thank you. Sig.
More or less just answered my
Oh.
question that I was gonna ask. If you had any immediate, buyers of that property or commercial interest.
I have interest in buying commercial property, yes.
Good. Good.
And
In some ways, I kinda wonder
their
how much-
interest, I guess to try to, I'm sorry for interrupting, their interest is, they don't want 160 acres. They want 5, 10, 15s, 3s, that's the interest. Somebody that wants to buy 160 acres is a developer, not a purchaser, typically.
I think a general commercial buffer definitely is a benefit to, if you're looking at housing further south. My question is, I wonder if you'll get anybody buying that close to a substation, but that's
Right.
for you to figure out your buyers, so.
Well, I was opposed to the substation very hardly in front of these same committees, and was told at the time it wouldn't affect me. Now we all know that it is. So I'm trying to deal with that effect.
Yes, Lori?
Yeah, and I have a question. You said this odyssey like in May or June. And again, the general commercial zoning designation was based on your discussions with the staff and your knowledge of what you want to do with the property, right?
Yes.
The general commercial seemed to be the best zoning for the piece of property.
In previous requests, this was denied one other time, previously a couple years ago. Since that time, I had met with a few commissioners and asked, what would you support? And the indication was general commercial or light industrial. It's a toss of which one to try to do, to plat, to sell lots in, or to put something on. I have conversations a lot with DOT. At some point, this will probably be a through road. The continuation of Lamb Road, DOT's plans are, whether the money ever gets allocated or not, it will be the actual true truck bypass around Rapid City. Very likely could go in that section line. If that ever happens or when, that's another thing. So I've elected to choose general commercial over light industrial because of that potential someday. I would further request not to just keep getting this continued, try to advise me on what I need to do or what I need to answer to so we can come to some decisions.
Are there any additional questions for Mr. Morris? Okay, thanks. Is there further discussion? Yes, come on up.
At the beginning of this meeting, PTA also advised me of a tax situation here, that the 2014 taxes are not paid. As I haven't researched anything, but I guess my question is that a stipulation of zoning? As I understand it, it's not, and I have no problem with that being a condition of this zone request approval if the taxes would be brought current. And I guess with the additional statement is that that would be the standard for everybody.
We can't impose conditions on a rezone, so, I mean, it is concerning to me that your taxes aren't paid. Is there further discussion?
I would make a motion that we approve the rezone 1508 and comprehensive plan amendment 1508 to rezone it to general commercial.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the rezone 1508 and comprehensive plan amendment 1508. Is there further discussion?
Can I ask PJ a question?
Yes.
What additional kind of guidance were you looking for, other than just the
If you
up
were-
or no on the rezone?
Kind of like on the previous items that you continued because of lack of information. If you weren't satisfied with the information that was given from the city, if you wanted more clarification on that, it's been continued at least once because of that. And then also the applicant was given time to answer. So just, but
I mean, because the rezone for the property to the west of it also had the same issues, and we rezoned it, right? It that one, again, wasn't in complete agreement with what the city has for future plans,
that
right?
is correct. The portion that's still in, that is pictured in green up there was not, but our future land use was in harmony with the request. This request is not.
Okay. But it makes sense to some of us.
Is there further discussion? Hearing none, we have a motion on the floor to approve rezone 15-08 and comprehensive plan amendment 15-08. Is there further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Aye. Okay, motion carries.
All right, thank you.
On to item 9.
Item 9, the Board of Commissioners concur with the Planning Commissioner's recommendation from the December 7th, 2015 Planning Commission meeting.
Great. Item 10, we have Commissioner Farabee. I don't think he's being a public person. Are there items from the public? Items from staff?
No items from staff.
Items from the membership?
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Yeah, Merry Christmas,
I
everybody.
just wanted to remind you, I'll be gone January 25th and February 8th.
Oh, you'll miss the next round. Okay. Anything else from the membership?
Should have left last week.
No, I would have
That's a
missed
good,
this.
good thing we had this meeting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, next year's probably have to start around 2 o'clock. They said they had to kind of
They had
speed
so
up
much
this
stuff,
morning's
yeah.
proceedings, yeah. So
Okay. Chair would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, we adjourn. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We are adjourned.
thank you.
Thanks.